The Wii U was an unfortunate little console, wasn't it? Despite being home to several great exclusives, it didn't stop the system from becoming one of Nintendo's worst-selling consoles of all time. I personally loved my Wii U, even if nowadays most of the games that were once exclusive are now on other systems like the Switch, except for Xenoblade X. Please port the game already. However, when I think of the Wii U, I think of one game specifically, a game that showcased what the system's controller was capable of, and that game being ZombiU. ZombiU was released as a launch title for the Wii U back in 2012 and was developed by Ubisoft. You may be mistaken to think that ZombiU is a sort of reimagining or spiritual successor to one of Ubisoft's earlier titles called Zombie, without the E. However, I can never really find a source that can confirm that was the intention, or just pure coincidence. Even then, the game was not originally about zombies, but instead about the raving rabbits of all things. It was called Attack of the Killer Rabbits from Outer Space. However, I guess seeing that making a very violent and mature spin-off of what is essentially more of a family-friendly series was a bad idea, they later changed it to something else. That being Killer Freaks from Outer Space, and was shown at E3 2011 with a trailer and some gameplay footage. Even having this sort of PR campaign with a bunch of teasers playing off as some sort of alien conspiracy that the government is hiding, it wouldn't take long until this idea was scrapped as well, and later changed to the game that is known as today. I would be interested to see if they can bring back the Killer Freaks idea in the future, but I feel like that's a dream well dead at this point. And in recent years, I've noticed this game is getting brand new videos covering it from the likes of Critical Nobody and such. But enough of me rambling for now. Let's talk about ZombiU. In the 1600s, John Dee, a scientist and advisor of Queen Elizabeth I, would prophesize a second Black Plague that would bring the end of the world, calling it the Black Prophecy. Hundreds of years later, the prophecy would come true as the city of London would be taken over by the undead. That's where our survivor comes in, being called by an unknown voice into the metro system. After escaping the horde, the survivor wakes up in the safe house. The voice is revealed to be the Prepper, and just like the name suggests, he knew this would happen. Given a bob, a pistol, a cricket bat, and what the Prepper calls the Prepper Pad, you see how long you can survive. At least that's what the game says anyways. If you've seen or played any other zombie movie or game, you run into the tropes like a doctor trying to find a cure to the outbreak, a crazy group of survivors making the game out of the whole thing. It's not always a bad thing when they're there, granted, so long as it's enjoyable and well written and such. And honestly, it's fine. Just a bit generic, that's all. There aren't that many characters you encounter either, but the character I hear from the most is the Prepper. I do like the Prepper for his cynical and blunt comments about everything that's going on in the game. Even the little quips he'll spout whenever you find a certain item. The actor really nails the role.
You just walked past a working junction box, by the way. That's a camera hub, in case you've never noticed one before. That's a 770, that. I used to shoot naps up the arse with one of those. It's jammed. Not my problem. What you want with that door anyway? Weren't you on your way to die?
But I do want to call the Prepper for one thing.
Rule number 3, keep a lookout for higher ground when you're in the city. The infected can't climb ladders.
Yeah, you fucking liar. Graphically, it ain't the best when it comes to the quality of the textures and some of the models, not to mention the good old Ubisoft jank in general. And the loading times being quite long, even outside the loading screens. It isn't great graphically, but artistically, I love how this game looks. It nails the bleak hopelessness of the world with its desaturated and washed out colors, with some nice camera effects too, like a dirty lens glare. I've even been tempted to do like studies of screenshots of this game because I generally love the look of it. Sound design is also great too, with the zombies letting out these guttural screeches.
Think of it as an unspoken agreement between survivors.
And guns having the right amount of oomph to them. And then there's the soundtrack. It was composed by Chris Valesco, who also helped compose for other series like God of War, Mass Effect, and Borderlands. And while the game is mostly silent through the duration of it, when there is music, Just like the Prepper Pad, the Wii U's gamepad is the most important thing to your survival. You'll be using the gamepad for most things in the game, be it inventory management, scanning the environment, using it as a radar, all in real time too, meaning that you'll need to know when is the best time to, say, mess with your pad without a zombie sneaking up on you. Sometimes it can be gimmicky, like just simply tapping on the screen to remove planks or just lockpicking a door, but I generally do like the usage of the Wii U gamepad. It's what makes the game for me. It feels so immersive. When you start as a survivor, you can get a pistol and a cricket bat. Other firearms can be found throughout London, and while there is a nice variety of guns, you likely won't be even using half of them. That's either because certain ammo types are incredibly scarce, like the Magnum for instance, or say some guns are just not as good as others. But the weapon you'd be likely using the most, however, is the cricket bat. The downside to using it, however, is that it takes several swings to kill a zombie, like up to 5 times at points. You can get lucky sometimes by killing a zombie in one hit, but that's incredibly rare, and only had it happen once during my playthrough. The cricket bat's also the only melee weapon in the game, and it cannot be upgraded unlike the guns, which can be upgraded through parts you find. You can also upgrade certain weapon types by just killing zombies, granting faster reloading and such. However, do be careful, as if you die, you lose everything. And I mean everything. That brings in the game's permadeath system. After dying, you'll take control of a different survivor, and now you must find your previous survivor, who could potentially be part of the undead now, and reclaim your lost items. If say you're connected online as well, you can find zombified survivors of other players. Though I thought they shut down the servers a while back for this game. But I guess not. Lucky me, I guess. There are several different types of zombies you encounter throughout the game. There's the common ones with rare auras that are not that common but are incredibly powerful and deadly. Ones that spit, ones that explode, ones that wear riot gear, ones that can somehow raise the dead even though you only count them 3 times throughout the game, and teleporting ones. What? What kind of plague gives zombies teleportation? What is this? John D didn't say shit about this. All it takes is one bite, or in my case, a good thwap to the back of the head, to take you down. You can acquire a fireside that can kill a zombie that's trying to grab you, but it can only be used once before having to be refilled. There seemingly was going to be an option where you can shake off a zombie by shaking the Wii U's gamepad in one of the original reveal trailers, but I understand why that would be removed because that sounds like a surefire way to break your gamepad. If I were to complain about one thing, it's the letters of D. The letters of D are something you have to acquire in order to beat the game, and while they're not hard to find, it just feels more like padding since you gotta go back through previous areas just to attain one letter in each. Even then, you can't even attain all of them until the very end of the game where you're fully upgraded. If say they were obtained along the way, then I wouldn't have an issue with this, but honestly, just a pretty low point of the game for me. So what else is there to do outside of the main game? Well, you can go back to the game again on Survivor difficulty that gives you 1 life to beat the game, and if you die, you have to delete the save file and start from the beginning again. There is a local multiplayer mode where one player takes control of the survivor and the other plays as the King of Zombies as it's called. It does seem like a fun mode, but I don't really have anyone to play with, so I can't show it off here. There is a concept video you can unlock through Uplay, which is nice, and a couple of cricket bat skins along with it. Even have this 1980s style main menu. One that features me as a zombie, which is basically like an Instagram filter really. Nothing exciting, it's just a whatever thing. But hey, at least Reggie was excited about it.
I like French food.
But before this go...
One last thing I do want to bring up was its planned sequel. It will reportedly feature local co-op with one player using the gamepad and the other using a pro controller, having players split up at certain points to travel through the rundown zombie apocalypse setting, as they noted. Wait, wasn't that what the original game was already? It apparently got to the prototype stage before its eventual cancellation. Why was that? Well, that's because ZombiU financially bombed super hard. And to drive home how bad the sales were, it wouldn't reach 1 million copies until 4 years after release and 1 year after the sequel's cancellation. However, despite scrapping the sequel, Ubisoft went ahead and re-released the game on all current platforms in 2015. Now it's titled ZombiU, without the E. Again. The port was handled by Straight Right, who previously did Wii U ports of Mass Effect 3 and Deus Ex Human Revolution. It was also the last game they ever developed, as the studio went silent afterwards and their website is now defunct, so... I guess it just didn't do well for them. Is this port worth playing? Not really, to be honest. For one, apart from the leaderboards, all the online and multiplayer options have been removed, which the multiplayer makes sense because they needed the Wii U's gamepad. It sports a higher resolution, higher quality texture that... Wait, why is that Dorr say cancer? However, certain visual effects like the dirty lens filter has been removed for whatever reason, and honestly takes away from the atmosphere of the original. The UI tends to glitch out often, and hell, certain objects are even glitched out to where you can't even open them, like this chest here at the Tower of London. I don't know why you can't open it in this version. You can in the Wii U game, so I don't know. The flashlight is given two separate modes, one that's dimmed but doesn't take up as much power, and one that is brighter but takes up way more power in exchange for you to see around the environment. Plus, the recharge period for it is way longer than it was in the original, meaning that you have to manage when to use the flashlight. See, changes like that I do like, because in the original, the flashlight would drain rather fast, but also refill within a second after turning it off, so what was the point of the recharge? However, there's still many changes I don't like in this version of the game. You now have to hold down the left stick to run, even though it was a toggle in the Wii U game, so I don't get why they changed that. They put in two new melee weapons, a spiked bat and a shovel, but they still act the same as the cricket bat, and I cannot see any difference between the three, so I don't see the point of them. Plus, the cricket bat takes up a slot in your inventory because you cannot remove it for whatever reason, and it's dumb. My biggest gripe, however, has to do with the cricket bat again. That being, they made it way too powerful in this version. Sure, the amount of times you had to hit a zombie in the original was tedious, but at least there was added tension to it. Not to mention your swings in the original were rather slow, meaning you have to make sure you perfectly time your hits, otherwise you get smacked by the zombie. Also, not to mention the amount of hits the zombies required to kill have been decreased, because I swear to god, they'd go down to like 1 or 3 hits occasionally, compared to like the 5 in the original version, and honestly makes them not feel like a threat. Like it or not, without the Wii U's gamepad, it takes away from what would make this game special to begin with. Without it, it's still a good game, but it's just not as unique compared to the other games. However, the downside is that it's on the Wii U, and not many people own the Wii U, so it makes sense as to why people would say play this other version of the game, because it's way more accessible. It also goes pretty cheap too on sale. But if I were to say what version you should play, it's obviously the Wii U version. But Zombie in general isn't bad, but I wouldn't recommend it. Unless you played the original first, then maybe. But knowing how badly the Wii U flopped, I imagine there may not be even that many people out there with a Wii U to begin with, so... Honestly, what happened to this game afterwards is a shame. They had something going here, and for their first real attempt at the survival horror genre, they did a pretty good job with it. Imagine it had gotten the sequel like Red Steel did, where the sequel managed to surpass the original in many different ways. It could have been even better than it was, but sadly, that's probably never going to happen at this point. And honestly, I'm kind of glad it hasn't happened, because if it was made by modern Ubisoft, I would really trust them. But I can still say ZombiU is definitely one of my favorite games of all time. You should play ZombiU, but if you don't have Wii U, I say Zombie's still fine at the very least. I've been SonicMan. I thank you for watching me ramble on about a game that barely no one even talks about anymore. Have a good day or night, and take care.